is this? Tabletop Island, huh? Let's see what this is all about.
A group of teenagers sneak into an abandoned summer camp, ready to party. Unfortunately for them, they're not alone. Watch out as Kane Forehart is slashing his victims one by one. Play as the teenagers in complete objectives, or play as the killer. Will you survive the night and formulate a plan to stop him, or will you get distracted? Slash-accre by Hebert.
Welcome to Tabletop Island. I'm Bernardo, your host, and today we're going to be diving in with a review I'm so excited to do for Slash-accre, a horror slasher movie board game. Oh man, I'm excited for this one. But before I dive into this game, I want to first start off by checking out the components. So first you have this really nice board. It's rather simplistic, I'll be honest with you. Nothing too complicated. I know there were some questions about some of the lines on how easy they are to see. I don't really see that as an issue. The green lines and the dark lines are relatively easy. I know there might have been a deluxe board as well. I'm not familiar with that one, so I can't really talk about that. We also have these really nice MDF kind of cabins, very simplistic. I absolutely love the design. They're very simplistic and they just add so much dynamic to it. I'm definitely big on deluxification, as you guys know, so this is definitely up my alley. And you have a bunch of other add-ons that could have been added at the time of the Kickstarter, such as the 3D printed beds, which I made to look a little bloody and gruesome. We love that. And there's also trees as well. You'll notice here I actually have more terrain related trees that look a little more realistic, just to add a little bit of spice to it. You can see here that the game itself comes with these plastic trees. There's nothing wrong with it. They are an acrylic hard plastic, so they're made to last. I just wanted to add a little bit more submersion to the game, so I wanted it a little more realistic. Now, the centerpiece, you'll see it flickering there if you turn on the switch at the bottom. Essentially, it replicates the campfire. I'll also be swapping that out at some point because I have one that looks even better. This was kind of a last-minute makeshift thing I wanted because, I wanted a little bit more submersion to have a dim lit light and have that flickering. What it comes with is kind of acrylic kind of platform for the center where you have an acrylic flame. Again, nothing wrong with that at all. The game board looks amazing on the table. There's also miniatures that come with it. There are the teenagers, and there's also the slasher, which looks a little bit like Jason, hence Kane Forehart. If you don't know how you can combine to create that name, I can't help you there. But the game looks awesome. The miniatures look great when they're painted. However, they are not the strongest miniatures. I'll be honest with you, they are a little bit on the cheaper side. If you drop in this hits hardwood floor, it's gonna break. There are a lot of miniatures that are like that with board games already, so it's not something uncommon, but it's something worth pointing out because it's something I definitely would imagine being changed over time in the future. I don't have anything yet to kind of swap them out for, but it's definitely something I'm looking out for. One of the other things as well with the components is going to be the cards. Now, the cards have really nice artwork, but it's not my favorite. As you can see here, they text an image. It's a little bit hard to see with the background that's used. You almost need a little bit better vision or a magnifying glass if your vision isn't that great. I personally don't have an issue with it, but I can definitely see a lot of individuals having issues kind of reading the cards and understanding them just because of not only the font, but the design choice. The artwork is fine. Could it be better? I think it could. I think that's definitely going to bring a point down in terms of the component quality. However, it definitely hits all of the tropes I love, so it's really hard for me to downvote this so much. Again, the art could change, but it's perfectly fine and it's definitely playable. Then you have the dice. They are wooden dice. I'll be honest with you, at first I was like, I'd rather the acrylic. I don't mind the wood. It almost feels a little bit more organic and a little bit more creepy. I've thought about maybe even bloodstaining them a little bit just to make them a little more eerie, but that's something for a later time. I don't mind the wooden dice. The fact that I have to use a regular die as well when I'm doing movement, not my favorite thing in the world, but I'm considering maybe even looking to see if I can get a wooden 6-sided die. Then you also have the player boards. They are a really decent stock there. They have a nice laminate finish. It is easier to see, obviously, because it's a lot lot larger than the playing cards, so no issues there. For the player boards too as well, a lot of things you'll notice in games that have specific movement for characters is that they will have the one movement and that's it. The interesting way on how movement works in this game, as you can see the movement on this character's card, you also roll a 6-sided die and you add this movement to it. Or if you want, you can end up just making things simple to where you always move 3. It's not high, it's not low, it's not the most exciting, but if you have a lower movement, something like that might just be a better choice for you. It's a really smart way to implement movement, and it also allows the game to move a lot quicker. The other kind of player board here that you'll notice as well is going to be the kill board, which is just a reference sheet. Thankfully they include it. It's in the rules as well, but I love having this in kind of the forefront here. But how this board works is when you end up rolling your die, depending on the number of dice your opponent gets, they also get to do the same. And depending on which symbols each of you roll depends on the different outcomes. So like a run and a grab could be a kill. And there's different scenarios where they're running and different things that the killer can roll, different things that the kind of teenager can roll to get out of those outcomes. Again, this cheat sheet's awesome. It's not the hardest thing to memorize after you've played it a number of times, but it's always good to have this in case you forget. There's also this kind of health kind of tracker made of acrylic as well. That's my least favorite part in terms of the components because it was a pain to put together and it's relatively small that if someone bangs against the table, it could just fly across. It's not the most practical thing. I've definitely found things to kind of swap it out, and I've even considered getting maybe a little clip on the end, kind of like what you would be used to with Betrayal House on the Hill, where you kind of just slide over the clip and the arrow kind of points to where it's at. That's something I've considered as well. Again, not the craziest thing to ask for. You even don't have to connect the two pieces or just have anything on top of that to kind of slide across. It's not that big of a deal. It's definitely something you can change easy on your own. Not the biggest thing to critique, but I had to kind of point it out because I know a few others had that same complaint as well. Now, as for the gameplay, I love it. This game is awesome. I will first start talking about the rulebook. It is a black and white, kind of just looks like obviously just printed out and stuck together. That could use a little bit more sprucing up, and I'll be honest, when I first saw the rulebook, it was a little intimidating because that's all of the words on the page, and as you know me, I'm not the best with rulebooks, but this one was an easier one to pick up, and man, do I love it. So essentially, you have different sides that you can play. You're either the teenagers, which you would control more than one in most games, or you are the killer, who's the slasher, trying to take everyone out. It's smart because how the game begins, you take these discs as the killer, which are numbered 1 to 5, and you mix them up and you place them on different spots on the board. There's a key thing here. There's also a second set of those numbers, which you place one aside. That's going to be where you end up popping up. So you're almost getting into the mind of your opponent to where you think they're going to end up and where they're trying to end and trying to complete a task because they have their own task cards, which they're constantly trying to complete. But what you end up doing is when they go to one of those spots, if you're not at that spot, they get an objective card, which can get them closer to winning the game. If you are in that spot, then you appear and you get to fight them, and man, does it get brutal. I mean, killing your opponents is a lot of fun, which is why in most games they'll be controlling more than one character, because you best believe they will get killed. But one of the critics or one of the critiques that they had early on in the game that I saw online was that it's really hard to win as the teenagers or as the killer because the teenagers have so many kind of things that can protect it. I'll be honest with you, that's far from it. That photograph doesn't make it broken. It's a one-time use. So I wanted to clear that up as well in case individuals had questions about that based on some of the other videos that are online. But that's not an issue at all. The teenagers getting killed is definitely something that can happen. But I'll be honest with you, the teenagers are also still really good, especially if they're smart and they get inside of your head. Yeah, there's a lot of that. In fact, when I played my game, and this is probably one of the things I enjoy the most, is if you appear, you don't have to disappear and rearrange the tokens and appear that way. You can just stay on foot, roll the die, and chase them. And man, is that fun, because I got really frustrated when when the people I was playing with really kind of dove down and figured out where I was going. I was like, you know what? They're not going to find me this time because I'm going to be out in the open. And I was just rolling insanely, and I was just destroying them. And then eventually they completed the objective and got me knocked out. The objectives are also really smart. One of the things you'll see in something like Camp Grizzly is there's these little cards on the side that kind of have different scenarios. With this one, you don't really get to know what scenario you are until you start to get more than one copy of one. What do I mean by that? Well, it's interesting if you're familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh! The pieces of Exodia, instead of 5, you got 3. So when you're drawing objective tokens, you're trying to get 3 copies of a specific objective to complete a finale. And they, again, fit together like a puzzle piece, and then that's where you have to lure the killer to kill them as long as you have an X amount of certain tokens to meet the objective. Again, my goal isn't here to teach you how to play the game, it's to kind of give you a brief overview. This game is awesome. One of the things that I really want to highlight here that I think is better than a lot of the other slasher games is the simple fact that you get to really play as the killer. I know there's expansions in games such as Camp Grizzly, which is a really popular one that people enjoy. That's a little bit also hard to find, but you don't really get the full experience of playing as the killer. You kind of just get to draw from a deck, and that's really it. In this game, you can go on foot and straight go in and slay people, or you can roll a 2 and rock really slow and decide, you know what, let me just go back the other way. But it's so smart because they're going around a complete objective, but they always have to go to those places that have those tokens. So they can't avoid it at all to try to complete objectives. However, they can avoid the one they're closer to if they think that you're just being lazy, go all the way back to the forest, and yeah. But the gameplay's smart. Again, I love the aspect of playing as the killer, but playing as the teenagers is also really smart because one of the other things, unlike a game again like Camp Grizzly, you're gonna have those pieces out in the open. In this, your kind of teenagers are kind of showing each other the cards. However, the killer doesn't really know where they're trying to lure them or how they're trying to kill them. So it's a lot of fun in that aspect, and man, the gameplay is excellent. Now, is this a game you should own? I want to first leave a disclaimer that this is a Kickstarter game. It's a Kickstarter game that they are still kind of fulfilling for individuals who haven't received it. The creator's gone through quite a bit, so kind of fulfillment has been a bit slow. Obviously, complications with shipping and everything has definitely not been in his favor. But the game is awesome. I really hope that there's a point where they do end up reprinting this game because I think it's excellent, and I think everyone should have a slasher-themed board game in their collection. There's too many games that are kind of one-hit gems that never get the chance to sprout their wings, such as like a Camp Grizzly, which a select amount of people will have. I'll be reviewing that as well, and a few others that just don't fit the bill on what I'm looking for. But I'll actually do a comparison video as well to kind of talk about things I like over this one, over that one, but I will leave the disclaimer. This is my favorite slasher board game, and I would love to see this get reprinted. I hope things kind of pick up, whether or not they end up doing it with another publisher, or they end up getting to a point where they can do it fully themselves, which would be awesome, because again, I would love to see this in everyone's collection, because it is awesome, and if you're a horror fan alike, you would love this one. But honestly, that's all I have for you guys today. Again, if you have questions about the game, leave it in the comments. I would love to answer them for you. Again, I'll do some comparison videos on a separate video, and I'll leave a link in the description in case that's something that interests you, in case you may have some of the other ones. But that's honestly all I have for you guys today. I will see you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Me and Volcar really appreciate Volcar and I greatly appreciate it. And it would really help us out if you like, comment, subscribe on this video. And if you're interested, hit that bell icon because that'll let you know when we release our newest video. Monday is going to be our regular board game reviews. Wednesday, our weekly update / talks. And then on Friday is my vintage board game reviews. That is all I have for you guys today. I will see you guys next time. Well, apparently the video doesn't end until Volcar says it ends, so I guess we wait.